Hey folks, Simon here. Now this week I'm going to talk about my training over January. A lot of you have asked me about my Vo2 training sets and how I've progressed those, so I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about what's gone well in my training and frankly what's been rubbish. I'm going to talk about how to train for endurance as a master cyclist, why a lot of people get this wrong and what they really should be focusing on. For most people, it's really not what they think. So without further ado, let's get into it. In November, December and January, I've been really drilling down into the strength work. The cool thing is by focusing on that, I've raised my deadlift up to 120 kg. And let's be honest with you, I haven't increased my strength over the month of January, and that's purely because I came home after a strength training session, went to bed, got up the next morning, thought, I need to put the bins out, grabbed hold of the black bin. As I lifted it, I felt my lower back just fractionally pull. So I put the bin down, but I realized I just fractionally graunched the back. Nothing too seriously, luckily done, but it did mean that I couldn't go back to gym for about 7 to 10 days. And then when I did, I started lifting lighter. So I'm back to where I was, but I just needed to take a step back and allow the body to recover. These things happen, right? Over Christmas, I pretty much relaxed. So my weight has raised and it went up to about 67, just over. But over this month, I've gradually and sensibly had a calorie deficit and worked on that religiously each week, not limiting myself massively, but just making sure that I'm within a constant calorie deficit, and it's successfully dropped my weight really nicely down to 65.9, and the target is to get back to race weight around about 65 kg. If you keep an eye on my Instagram page, you'll know that pretty much every Tuesday I'm doing Vo2 sessions early in the morning with some of the guys that I coach. These have been pretty blooming tough, but I know they're super valuable in raising my aerobic ceiling and improving my power. And I think actually I can really feel the difference on the bike already, which is great. The whole idea is trying to get my fitness in a good place by the time I get to TD in about 3 weeks' time. Keep watching because I'm going to talk about these Vo2 sessions in a bit. One of the goals of this block so early on in the winter is to get at least 4 quality hill rep session in before I head off to Tenerife. I want to have good climbing legs when I get there. So today's session is 3 times 8 minutes, all consistently hard. The one thing I have been doing this year is focusing on climbing in and out of the saddle. I feel my power out of the saddle is not as strong as maybe as I want it to be. So focusing on that when I'm doing hill reps should see me a lot stronger going into the Inferno this year. So all in all, January's gone pretty well. My strength's gone up, my weight's dropping down, and I'm still not cutting out the odd bit of cake here and there. The power on the bike and my Vo2 definitely feels like it's growing. Kept the hill reps running each week and stay healthy and not get ill, which, let's face it, this time of year is pretty hard to avoid. And I've been lucky here in Devon, although it has been cold, we just haven't had the same amount of snow and ice as everybody else has, and that's partly because we live right next door to the coast, so it's always a little bit warmer. And the cool thing means that that's been allowing me to get the volume of riding out over the weekends, which is great. And also I've managed to persuade some of my mates to come with me, so that's been way more enjoyable. Right, let's talk about those Vo2 sessions and what I've been doing and how I've progressed them. Actually, before I do that, let's do a quick bit of Velo Performance news. This just in, the Velo Performance YouTube channel has gone over 6,000 followers. Rumours are that I've just bought a ceramic speed bottom bracket for the BMC. Okay, that's not a rumour, it's true. And finally, the vlogcast with Ronnie McGregor, all about blood glucose monitors and their effectiveness and thinking about them more critically, has been the most watched vlogcast on the channel. If you haven't watched it, I'll put a link underneath the video. Righty, Velo Performance news done. Let's talk about my Vo2 sessions and how I've progressed those. I'll talk about how master cyclists should train for endurance events after this bit. Right, Vo2, what is it and why should you do it? When you look at master cyclist physiology, it's really clear on the evidence that as we get older, our VO2 drops quite dramatically. That's the same for men and women. In my mind as a coach, we need to be putting VO2 sessions periodically throughout the year. This is something I maybe will talk about in another video, but let's talk about the sessions I've been doing and how I've progressed them. So maybe that might help you if you're going into a VO2 set. I started off with a VO2 classic of 1 minute on, 1 minute off times 8. And in the second set, it was 1 minute on, 1 minute off times 6. And then 1 minute on, 30 seconds off times 4. These sessions are set at 110 to 120% of FTP. And the progression of these sessions has been pretty straightforward. So I've either added a bit more time to each VO2 effort, reduced the amount of recovery that I've had in between each effort, or added more reps. One of the things I like to do is keep training very straightforward by progressing it in time rather than trying to make it more interesting, because by doing that, you get to see progression and you really notice the difference. So I've gone from 60 seconds to 75 seconds to 90 seconds, right up to 2 minutes. And from that point, I started to add more repetitions into the sets. Look, let's face it, VO2 sessions aren't pleasant. And this is one of the reasons why I like to keep it pretty simple when you do these sessions, rather than trying to make them interesting. Because if you go into them knowing that you're just progressing the time a little bit, or you're adding a few more repetitions, especially if you completed it at a really good level the last week, then you go into it with a lot more confidence that that is very achievable. And more often than not, that just creates this confidence and this understanding of fitness in the cyclist and athlete that you coach. And it just gets them to feel really good about themselves, but it helps them complete the session better. And that's it. That's how I progress my VO2 training sessions. It's not that interesting, it's not that sexy, but I tell you what, it's very effective. Righty, let's wrap up with talking about training for endurance as a master cyclist. If you're familiar with anything that I do on a bike, then you'll probably have noticed that I've done Land's End to John O'Groats in 5 days. I'd say that's pretty much endurance. I've done silly things like 100 miles every day for 10 days for charity. Every year I ride around the island of Mallorca and try and get a faster time. This year I'm trying to aim for 10 hours. So as a coach and as a cyclist, I'm pretty experienced in understanding nutrition and the training to be able to get yourself in a position at the age of 53 to ride these events strong at a very decent average pace, and also help other cyclists do the same. Maybe the best thing to do is to start here. This is what I see a lot of cyclists doing wrong. Just focusing on long, steady miles. Yeah, okay, you need to have that ability and understanding of riding long and steady to learn your nutrition and develop that aerobic engine. It is important, but it is not the only thing you should be focusing on. And bear in mind, as we get older, we lose muscle mass, we lose strength, we lose VO2, and if we don't train it, that's a part of our physiology that is super important for being able to ride strong and steady over longer distances. This is why strength training is so important. We know that as we get older, we lose strength and lean muscle mass quite quickly. A thing about strength training is it improves the quality, function, and power of your muscles. And the stronger you are, the more efficient you become. So think about it this way. Your muscles, when they're weak, use pretty much all the muscle units to produce the same power. But the stronger you are, the more efficient they become, so they use less of the muscle units to produce the same power, which means you become more efficient. The other thing is hitting the gym and becoming stronger just makes you look leaner and more youthful. Now, who doesn't want that? As I talked about earlier, VO2 is an important aspect of your physicality, especially as you get older, because we lose our VO2 quite dramatically as we get older. So not training it doesn't make any sense. The problem is I see a lot of people training VO2 once a year, and in my mind, you need to put that in certain blocks throughout the year to maintain it or even grow it. Come to think about it, I think this whole subject for master cyclists and how they can get faster on their bikes, become better endurance machines, be stronger, ride better average paces over time, conserve energy, reduce power but stay faster over time, requires a whole video about how to think about it differently as a master cyclist and break away from the old school thinking into the new way of thinking for masters cyclists. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. Look, If you've enjoyed this video and if you've got anything out of it, do me a favour, hit like. If you want to ask me any question at all, stick it in the comments box below and I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching.